Hello, my friends. It's another Monday. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable. Let's talk about the astrology of this upcoming week. Welcome on in. And this is This Week in Space. Space. I'm your host with the most, Blind Stallion Space Wizard, or Joan Emerson Bell, depending on how you want to refer to me. Call me what you want, just don't call me late for dinner. You know what I'm saying? This week, we're going to be talking about the astrology of the week of December 16th through December 22nd. Good morning, Gina Maria. I'm glad that you're here because I have a very exciting announcement before we jump into the astrology. Me and my partner, the brilliant and talented Marlena Seven Bremner, who is a painter and alchemist who's written a couple books on alchemy that are published by Inner Traditions. We're going to be teaching our class on the seven classical planets through myth, magic, and alchemy. That's going to be kicking off the 1st of March. It's a 8-week class that'll cover all of the classical planets, plus an extra class for integration and whatnot. I'll be putting things in my stories and links in my show notes and this and that so that you can sign up if you're interested. It's pretty awesome. Had a great time teaching it last year, and I'm super excited about doing it again this year. So something to stay tuned for. And yeah, I'm glad that you're here, Gina Maria, because Gina Maria has been asking me about it. All right. Anything else? I don't know. It's been quite a week. Happy post Gemini full moon, everybody. And also Mercury just stationed direct. Both of these happening on Sunday, December the 15th. The full moon occurred early in the morning at like I think 1 a.m. Mountain Time, and then Mercury stationed direct about 12 hours later. Ooh, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that you like the class. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. Okay. Yeah, the Gemini full moon seemed like it was a culmination of a bunch of information. I found myself just like on my phone scrolling, looking for memes, sailing the seas of memes, getting like really pulled into samsara and the wheel of illusion just like grinding into the simulation. And that's just sort of how like the Gemini vibe feels. And I think I just want to do kind of like a brief recap of everything that's happened since the Sagittarius new moon, which was, let me just go back and check on the exact date of that. The Sagittarius new moon was, I believe, December the 1st. Um, duh, 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 duh. Yeah, March the November the 30th was the Sagittarius new moon at 9 degrees and 33 minutes. And since then, we had the assassination of Brian Thompson, the manhunt for the shooter, the capture of the alleged shooter, Luigi Mangione, which I just recorded a thing on my Patreon at the Coffee with Jonah tier, which talks about the astrology of that assassination and Luigi Mangione's birth chart, the alleged assassin. I don't know. It's interesting. It's on the Patreon. You can check it out if you want. Also, since the end of November, we have had martial law declared in South Korea. We have had a regime change in Syria. We have had aliens or drones swarming New Jersey. It's just like keeps getting like one thing after the next. Now the Pope is maybe opening 5 portals in a ritual that has never been seen before on Christmas. Like I don't even know what's going on, and maybe Google's quantum computer has opened portals to parallel universes. I don't know. And like what I sort of came to around the Gemini full moon is like, I don't believe it unless I can hold it in my hands. And I actually don't. Yeah, okay, Eugene activity in Eugene, Oregon. I think like UFOs, UAPs, like drone swarms. It's just like popping off everywhere all of a sudden. And I'm I'm down for it, right? I'm like bring it, right? Pluto's into Aquarius, like 2025 is going to be off the chain, and I'm just like, okay, cool, what's next? Like bring it. And also, I find myself just like diving into the tubes of the internet, wanting to know what's going on, sort of like in this cliffhanger of like maybe the next meme will tell me, like maybe if I scroll further or deeper, it'll tell me what's going on. And, I don't think that's the case. I don't think like especially with like Mercury retrograde ruling the full moon in Gemini, I don't think that we're going to know the full picture or have the full story or get the information that makes sense. Um, but I really want it, right? And I think that humans really want to know. We hate ambiguity, and this is part of the Gemini archetype is the this or the that. We're like, what is it? Tell me. Like, I need to know. I need to gather the information and like know what's actually going on because it's really difficult to sit in the unknown of being like, what is that crazy orb in the sky? I'm pretty sure it's alien. I'm not going to say it's aliens, but I'm pretty sure it's aliens. And also, how do I like come into my sensory information and what I'm actually taking in and noticing the way that my mind is processing things so that I don't just like go grasping after like little bits of information and then repeating it unresearched, kind of like I'm doing here. Um, uh, Um, sorry, just checking the comments. Jeff is, yeah, Jeff also brought in like, is this distraction tactics, right? It's sort of interesting that we have this moment of class consciousness, that with the assassination of Brian Thompson, and everybody's like, hold on, wait, like maybe privatized healthcare is a scam. And like maybe like it's the billionaires that are keeping me down and not immigrants, not trans people, right? Not other marginalized people. Maybe it's all the people who have all the consolidated power and the oligarchy of the United States, right? That we're sliding into. And then all of a sudden there's just like drones everywhere, right? And like UAPs, and people are sort of like, I can't think about that now because like there's fire in the sky. Also, just fun fact, the like UAP or drone over New Jersey onslaught began November the 18th, which is the day before Pluto moves into Aquarius. Coincidence? I think not. Whew. So all of this to say, I think that there is a lot of information flying around, right? And I think that's exciting, right? Gets me like all amped up and being like, what's next? And also, how do I come back into the present moment, right? How do I come back into a sense of agency, right? And thinking about the locus of control, right? I don't really have control over what's going on out there. I have control over what's happening in here to some extent and the responses that I make to the information that I'm receiving. And if I get all spun out and start like acting erratically, that's going to have a ripple effect. And if I can stay in sort of alignment, if I can stay in equanimity, then that's also going to have a ripple effect. Oh, and Jeff, Cosmic Cousin, saying the sun conjunct the galactic center all week, which is what, 24 degrees of Sagittarius? Is that correct? 25 degrees? And that I believe, and Jeff knows a lot more about this than I do, but I believe that is the sort of like center of the galaxy that our galaxy is orbiting around. That has a lot to do with the elevation of consciousness, if I am correct. It's not an area that I am an expert in. Um, yeah, Gina Maria saying, I keep thinking that they are coming to save us from ourselves. Either that or they're like, whoa, this is okay, it's at the galactic center's at 26 degrees of Sagittarius. And I like to think that the aliens might be coming to save us from ourselves. They also might be like, oh snap, this season is this season's getting really unhinged. This season of the season of Spaceship Earth is like getting really crazy and they're all like leaning in, right? And they're like, ooh, like let's add a little bit more chaos, right? Oh, this is getting really exciting. So I don't know, and only time will tell. But let's dip into the astrology of the week. Do I want to talk about that? Do I want to talk about that? No, we'll save that for another day. Okay. So, again, Mercury stationed direct at 6 degrees and 24 arc minutes of Sagittarius. This happening mid-afternoon on Sunday, December the 15th. Um, Mercury had been retrograde since November the 25th. They stationed retrograde at 22 degrees and 40 arc minutes of Sagittarius. So we are sort of going back over, rehashing, rethinking, redoing, right? And then we stopped, and then we're going back through and getting some clarity, picking up the pieces. One of the things that I really like, and I think about this a lot with the Mercury retrograde, is a labyrinth practice, right? And labyrinths are a medieval meditation technique. They're also can be used in magic. Right, and in walking labyrinth path, right, we sort of enter in, we have a question, a quandary, an issue, a problem, and then we begin walking this sort of labyrinth path, going back and forth and back and forth. It's a lot of switchbacks and sort of retracing steps and winding further inward, and then you get to the center, right? And then in that center, perhaps there is some clarity as we have been like going through and like releasing and contemplating and thinking. And then you reach the center and you get this sort of moment of clarity, ideally, where we take some time and soak it in and we allow our unconscious to sort of do this processing. And then as we leave and we retrace our steps going winding back out. And the sort of idea is that like as we are coming out, we are retrieving these thoughts and ideas or parts of the self that we have released on the way in order to reintegrate them, and then we leave the labyrinth as a changed person. And one of the reasons that the labyrinth became popular is a way of engaging in pilgrimage for people who couldn't afford to go on like a long extended pilgrimage. You could just go to your local church and walk a labyrinth, which would function like a pilgrimage. So you could go to a holy site internally without having to leave your province. And with the Mercury retrograde, I think about this process, right? We sort of enter in, right? We're like, okay, we've come as far as we can go. Now we're entering in and sort of like untangling and unwinding, right? And releasing and being like, what was that? What's going on? I'm not really sure. We kind of arrive at the center, which might be the Kazemi moment, right? Where we kind of take it in, right? We get this moment of clarity. And then as we come back out, we are reintegrating the pieces that became untangled, that become shook out, that we let go of. And so, as we come to this direct station, right, that's this opportunity to sort of go back through, right, and to be like, oh, this is important, or like, I don't know about that anymore, right, and to sort of reintegrate the learning or the information that we have been gathering as we have been sort of winding around through the seas of memes, right, through our conversations, through the things that we ordered that never arrived, through the conversations or the emails that got sent that, went straight to spam, right? It's an opportunity to be like, what is important, and to both refine and sharpen our communication, our intellect, and also our values and what is important, as well as, integrating the information that has been untangled or spread out, right? And we're sort of like retracing our steps again to be like, oh yeah, that's important. Oh yeah, that was meaningful. And in Sagittarius, the idea is to come up with this overarching narrative, the thing that makes sense, right? This is the story that I want to tell, right? I went on this vacation, I went on this pilgrimage, I walked this labyrinth, all this stuff happened, and these are the important themes to hit in my PowerPoint, right? This is the important information that I want to share because this makes it make sense, and I don't think it makes sense yet, but we're also not there. Mercury gestation, which means that Mercury comes to a standstill. Right. So like nothing is happening. It's just like skidded to a halt and we're waiting for, the next train to come. It's sort of like I think Austin Coppock described it like this. Retrograde is like being on a train going in one direction, and then we arrive at the station, go onto the platform, we are stationary for a while, and then we get on the next train that is going the opposite direction. So this is the time, this direct station, Mercury's not moving. It's just sort of like pause there at 6 degrees 24 minutes of Sagittarius. And this is a moment of sort of like sitting on the platform, right? Checking your phone or, taking in the scenery or checking for when the next train is arriving before we board and begin going in the other direction. So this is also this kind of reflection point, this moment of stasis, right? This liminal space, this in-between space, which is a place that Mercury thrives, right? Mercury is the messenger and the psychopomp, and they deal with thresholds, they deal with in-betweens. Mercury is only visible at twilight and at dawn, right? At the sort of corpuscle, the in-between hours, right? The liminal spaces. And this is a place that Mercury lives and thrives, right? And the station direct is a liminal space where, things sort of shift, right? And I imagine that they begin to bubble up, right? As we are starting to go in a new direction. But it's not time to like start running the other way yet. Right. It's a time for like sitting and reflecting and sharpening and being like, okay, like I'm gonna start moving, but we're not there yet. And so, yeah, that's some thoughts on the Mercury direct station. And also like with the rulership of the Gemini full moon, I think it's a lot of information that doesn't quite make sense, right? And just allowing ourselves the space to sit in that train station, right? In that liminal space, in that in between, right? In between the this and the that, the black and the white, the right and the wrong, the yes and the no, to sit in the in between and to just notice how it feels and what it's like. And again, the mind really wants clarity. The mind really wants to be like, that's what it is. That's who that person is. This is what this means. And that is part of the Sagittarian archetype as well, being like, here's all the information and I'm making it make sense. Pow, right? And we're not there yet. So this is a time of just like allowing ourselves to sit in the unknown, as uncomfortable as that is. But it also just might be a story that this is uncomfortable, right? And what is it like to actually be with what is happening instead of being like, I don't like it, I don't want it, I hate this, I want to know, give me the answer, it's aliens, tell me it's aliens. The truth is out there. I want to believe, right? And I want to believe, right? Sagittarius wants to believe. And I think Mercury and Sagittarius wants to believe also, but we can do that and also allow ourselves to sit in the unknown, right? And to sort of increase our window of tolerance for being in the unknown. So, moving right along, this is a pretty light astrological week, and depending on how much I talk, maybe we'll get out of here early. But on Wednesday, December the 18th, we have our first major transit of the week. We have the Sun in Sagittarius squaring off with Neptune in Pisces. This is happening at 27 degrees and 10 arc minutes of these mutable signs. And so the Sun and think of as our identity, what we are striving for. It's how we shine our light into the world, right? It is our acts of self-expression that align with our inner sense of who we are, right? Great. Neptune, outer planet, is dissolving and diluting, right? And so we might be like, this is me. And then Neptune is like, is that really you? Maybe everything is everything. Maybe nothing is nothing, right? It is sort of diluting that solar sense of self, right? And these planets are in a square, so this is a hard aspect where they are at cross purposes, right? So, whereas the sun is like, this is me and I'm shining my light and look at me, Neptune's like, why even bother, bro? It doesn't even matter, right? And so Neptune job is dissolving, and so it is sort of dissolving that solar sense, right? That kind of ego identity, right? That it's like, this is me, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm shining my light. And Neptune is maybe like obfuscating that or dissolving it, right? With the with the sun in Sagittarius, right? That sort of identity focus, that ego focus is about shooting the arrow, right? This is the target, this is the goal. Like I am, shooting my arrow towards that thing, right? Because I don't know, whatever that story is, because it makes sense, because that will bring me joy, because that will bring me esteem, right? And Neptune is like, oh, are you sure that's the target? Are you sure that's what you want to do? Why don't you just take a nap? Right. Um, yeah, and Neptune just stationed direct, I think last week, squaring the galactic center. And yeah, that sort of got lost in the like wealth of information that was pouring out. And I think Neptune is sort of the sleeper of the year. I've been doing some research on Neptune and the Neptunian archetype, and they're slippery, right? They are dreamy. There's a lot of illusion, right? And in 2025, they're going to be moving into Aries for the first time since 1861. And I'll be talking about this in my year ahead forecast that I'm going to be doing on January 4th with Lindsay Turner, Sam Reynolds, and Michael Bartlett. And I think that Neptune is sort of like going under the radar, but with its direct station, they are beginning this sort of inexorable march towards the cardinal sign of Aries, which I think is going to be big, right? And so, I think that Neptune can confuse or drain away our desire and our will from the achievement of our goals and what we're going after, right? And this can leave us like pretty confused and a little lost, right? And at worst, we can abandon our mission through like ignorance or delusion or even survival fears. And so midweek, right? Things might not make sense, right? Or there might be information that we're like, oh, I really want to believe that. Neptune, again, is like the dream, it is fantasy, it is illusion. And in a square, it can really pull us off our path, right? Because again, Sagittarius is the archetype of the centaur, the human, like top-down logical, and the animal bottom up, instinctual or intuitive, right? And Sagittarius is trying to combine these two into focus towards the goal, towards the direction, towards the target, right? And then Neptune in Pisces, which is also a Jupiter ruled sign, fun fact, is sort of like, nah, like dissipating, dissolving, right? And I think kind of breaking those bonds, whereas Sagittarius wants to integrate, right, the animal and the human parts, or the left brain and the right brain parts, the logical and the intuitive, right, the symbolic and the rational. Neptune is just sort of like everything is everything, and kind of dissolving those connections and dissolving those bonds, which can make things very confusing, right? Especially if that is part of the focus of where we're at, and that solar focus is creating that sort of unity and direction towards the goal, and then we look up and like it's just a fog, right? And Neptune is very foggy, it is hypnotic, right? And so we can have our eye on the prize and our goal on the target, and then we look up and we're in this Neptunian fog of like information or fantasy or story. Um, uh, um, Yeah, I guess Wes Eddy is asking maybe this is the beginning of a new cycle for Neptune. Right. I think Neptune entering into Aries is the beginning of a new cycle. I would say with the square to the sun, like usually we're looking at synodic cycles from the conjunction. And then so we'll get the conjunction when the sun moves into, I believe, Pisces or Aries, and that will begin the new kind of synodic cycle with the sun and Neptune. But when Neptune enters into Aries, that will begin, it spends like 12 years, 12 to 14 years in a sign. So that will begin like a new chapter, right? And then also there will be echoes back to all of the other times that Neptune was in Aries. Again, the last one was like 1861 to 1872 or 74. And yeah. Um, and I think like also during 2025, Neptune and Saturn are both going to be shifting back and forth between Aries and Pisces, and then Neptune and Saturn will make their connection, their conjunction in, I believe, Aries, 0 degrees of Aries in 26. They're going to come within 13 minutes of a conjunction in 25. But also, that will begin a new Saturn Neptune cycle, which is kind of a big one. I think that's about every 25 years? No, longer than that. The last one was in 1989, which is characterized by the invention of the Game Boy, the first episode of Seinfeld, and also the fall of the Berlin Wall. So that's sort of a big one. Which we'll get into more and more as we go through, as we move closer to it. But with the Sun square to Neptune, right? One of the stories that this makes me think about is the lotus eaters from the Odyssey. So in, I believe, book 10 of the Odyssey, maybe I forgot to write down the book, but oh no, book 9 of the Odyssey. Odysseus and his men land on an island inhabited by the lotus eaters, who are a gentle people who only consume the fruit of the lotus plant. And those who eat the lotus fruit forget about returning home, preferring instead to hang out on the lotus island and eat lotus fruit. Odysseus has to drag his sailors weeping back to the ship and ties them to their oars in order to escape the lotus eater island, right? So this island of the Lotus Eaters is a place where we go astray, right? We get lost in the fantasy or intoxication. We forget ourselves and our mission and just seek comfort, right? And the square from the sun in Sagittarius to Neptune in Pisces, we can lose sight of our bigger mission, right? And we can forget about the target and just surrender to the pleasure and intoxication of the moment, which, there is nothing wrong to about recognizing the pleasure of the moment, but also we want to maintain our sort of forward momentum and remember what we are doing, right? We want to get to the goal, right? Whatever that goal is, and not just lose ourselves in self-indulgence, right? So, yeah, in the Odyssey, the sailors forget about their desire to go home. They forget about all their goals. They lose energy. They lose momentum. They slip into avoidance and pleasure seeker, right? Pleasure seeking. And lotus eating causes the sailors to forget their vocation, right? Their mission. And it turns them instead to seeking personal satisfaction. Right? This can lead to feelings of self-inflation or even narcissism, right? And this is narcissism less as the like personality disorder that is like thrown around on TikTok a lot, right? And more the sense of the mythic Narcissus who falls in love with his own reflection. Um, right? Of just being like, oh my God, like look at this reflection, it's so beautiful. Oh my God, I'm just loving this moment, right? Jungian analyst Robert A. Johnson talks about the difference between inflation and enthusiasm in his book Ecstasy, which is about the god Dionysus here. Uh, which is great. It's short. Robert Johnson does a really good job of sort of breaking down complex Jungian concepts into very short and easily digestible books. Right. And one of the things that he talks about is enthusiasm is being filled with the divine, right? Being connected with whatever that sense of light or divinity is. Right? Whereas inflation means to be filled with hot air to have one's ego become puffed up, right? And with this Neptune square, we get the opportunity, right, to tap into the divinity of all things and be in connection with that, or we get the sort of Neptunian illusion that can puff us up, right? And where we can lose our sense of ourselves. And so I think it's really important to sort of maintain that delicate balance and remember, like, what is the thing that I'm trying to do? Where am I trying to go? Right. And we might even have to tie ourselves to our oars so that we can keep moving in that direction. Right. Also, when we're in a fog, maybe we want to just like relax, let go, sort of rest for a minute until things become clear. And Neptune will kind of suck away the energy energy from the sun, which, this is only going to last a couple days. And I think on another side, and we're going to move into this in a second, there's a lot of emphasis on you've always got to be doing things, right? You've always got to be working. If you're not working, you're a bad person, right? The only way it's okay if you're not working is if you're sick, right? And then you're a bad person who's diseased, right? And I think this is a sort of capitalist mentality. And with the sun squaring Neptune, we can be like, oh, I don't have any energy. And then this sort of illusion or fog can arise that's like, I'm a bad person. This is also inflation, right? Thinking I am the best or I am the worst, these are inflated, these are disproportionate. And so as we like move through that Neptunian fog and the sun gets sort of sapped, right, or washed away, and that solar energy is dissolved, and we feel bad about ourselves, to remember that that might just be a Neptunian illusion, right, or a capitalist illusion. Um, yeah, and also, yeah, Wes Eddy is saying maybe the sun shines a brief light into the fog, and I think it does, right? And I think it's really important that we're able to maintain that sort of solar light, that direction, right? In the Odyssey, that solar light is Odysseus being like, we need to get back to Ithaca, right? I need to see my wife, right? I need to get home. We need to get back there. That is the solar light. That is the telos of that journey. So being able to remember what our telos is, what our sort of goal is, and how we stay oriented to that. And we can also get sort of as we get swept away through these challenges, it's also being able to maintain that focus on we need to get home and not just like rest, like staying with the lotus eaters forever and being like whatever, everything is so chill, totally doesn't matter, right? I don't need to pay my bills. And coming back to this sort of capitalist idea, right? I think that being low energy can create stories in our brains that like I'm a bad person, right? Or like I'm gonna die. And again, this is inflation, and I think that is the Neptunian obfuscation of that solar truth, right? Which is like I am okay. Right. And I think the if we tune into the sun does its job. It shines its light. The sun is always the sun. The sun is always good. The sun doesn't need to do anything differently, right? And I think we all hold the sun within us, right, where we are okay just how we are, right? And Neptune can be like, no, you're not. Right. And it's shining that light into that fog, Eddie or Wes Eddie, is being able to be like, yes, I am. I am all good, right? I am holding the solar light and I am all good in this moment. And fortunately, the next day, Thursday, December the 19th, we get a very supportive trine between Venus and Aquarius trining Jupiter, who's retrograde in Gemini. This is going down at 14 degrees and 38 arc minutes of these air signs. And so a trine is a harmonious aspect that happens between planets in the same element. Right. So, and in this case, we have both the benefics coming into this harmonious relationship, supporting each other. Venus deals with love, beauty, values, relationship, aesthetics. Jupiter is hope and faith, right? Also deals with religion, spirituality, education, justice, right? And so these two benefic planets coming in together to really support each other. Right. And one of the things that can happen when when the benefics get together in this way is they're like, oh, things are chill, right? I don't need to do anything. I don't need to work, right? It can be like we can get lazy, but like a beautiful type of lazy, not like bed rotting, but the like, I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to like lay around and read a book. Oh, I just want to like hang out with my friends. And I think that this is really important, especially if we are indoctrinated with all this information that says if you do that, you're bad, right? If you do that, you're not productive. If you do that, you're going to get crushed in the gears of the machine, right? And so I think this is a way of coming out of that Neptunian fog is to tune into the benefics, right? In this harmonious relationship that are like, excuse me, oh, you know what you need to do? Just chill, right? Um, so this is a good time to engage with things that bring pleasure, right? Not in the not necessarily in the way where we check out, right? Which is the tendency of Neptune square the sun, which is like, oh man, I don't like it, right? I'm having anxiety. Oh God, it's too much, right? I need to get out of here. right? And just sort of like dissolving our consciousness, right? This is a way of, experiencing pleasure that helps us to tune in, right? Things that help us to be more present. This provides an opportunity for enthusiasm, like I was talking about, and that which fills us up with the spirit, right? And Venus brings that spiritual fulfillment through love, through art, through music. Jupiter brings it in through wisdom and knowledge and connection with the spirit, right? Through ritual and ritual practice. This is a great day to do something that helps you to feel more connected to what you love, right? So this can be hanging out with people that you love, right? This can be engaging in things that you love that bring joy, that bring genuine joy, not checking out, but tuning in, right? Um, yeah, and a good time to take in art or music. Take yourself to a gallery or a music show, or just like make a playlist, or listen to my radio show, The Melee Report. All the Astro-Weather you never thought you needed, set to all the music you thought you'd never hear. You can find it on SoundCloud. I'll put a link in the show notes. Right, great way to tune in to the pleasure of this transit. Right, engage with things that create healthy experiences of ecstasy and bring an increased sense of joy and well-being. Right, and we all find this in different ways, but because this is an air trine, we might get these experiences of joy through conversation, writing, other intellectual pursuits. Do things that you find intellectually stimulating that help put your mind at ease, especially the week that we had last week with like all this onslaught of information and potentials and possibilities and aliens and drones and portals and whatnot, right? Talk to your friends, right? Read a good book, write or share poetry, spend time just focusing on your breath, right? Try laughing. Laughing is great air magic, air medicine, right? Jupiter is expansive and it may help us to expand our social circle and want to connect with other people and to do things socially. And other people might be really helpful in providing perspective and helping you to make sense of some of the things that have been bubbling up during this Mercury retrograde. And this is also a great time to see friends and to connect with others. And people, like the people around, will generally, and I'm not going to say across the board because we all have different charts, but people will generally feel lighter and more open today. Oh yeah, and Wes Eddy is saying charity and service to others, which I absolutely love. I think that is a great way of sort of increasing, well-being, not just for yourself, but for other people. And that is a great way of expanding well-being. Thank you for putting that in. I really appreciate that. Um, right? And so the shadow side of this transit, it can make us lazy, but fuck it, right? We don't always have to be productive. It's a good time. Like this is the holidays. This is that sort of like in between space between last year and next year, right? This is a great time to be lazy, right? The only thing and I think non-action is really revolutionary, right? Not doing things, not buying things, not, participating can be very revolutionary. It's important to take breaks and to tune into oneself and one's spirit, right? To just take it easy and to create that space to like really allow yourself to be filled with the spirit. Um, the other shadow side of this transit is indulgence. And we might want to watch out for the parts of ourselves that just want to check out. Again, coming off this Sun square to Neptune, right? We may want to eat or drink too much under this transit, and too much of a good thing might not actually be a good thing. So this is a good time to remember moderation. And I think Neptune square the sun definitely increases our susceptibility to substances and decreases our tolerance, right? So we don't want to go overboard. If you're going to be drinking, doing drugs this week or into the holidays, just be aware, right? Because our tolerance might be decreased because of that Neptune square. And it might be beneficial to just take it easy, but to enjoy ourselves and not overindulge. And we don't want to get caught up in that inflation, right? And I think that the greatest benefit from this transit will be found by staying present, right? And allowing ourselves to expand what brings us pleasure and allowing ourselves to rest and to down regulate our nervous systems, right? because next week is going to be a pretty big astrological week and also the holidays, right? So this is a great time to rest up and not overdo it, especially if you have like holiday obligations. And this is also maybe a good opportunity to integrate some of the madness of the past week or month or year and just chill out, right? Yeah. And Wes Eddy is saying experiment with hardcore sobriety or, softcore sobriety, right? Whatever, do what feels good. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the week, Saturday, December the 21st, where the sun enters Capricorn. And let me get the exact moment that that is occurring. Um, Never mind. I can't do that. But on Saturday, December the 21st, the sun will be entering Capricorn, meaning that this is the winter solstice, the darkest time of the year in the northern hemisphere, the longest night, right? So the sun has sort of reached the bottom of the valley and it will begin its slow climb back up towards the spring equinox, right? And so we can think back to what's been happening since June of this past year when there's the summer solstice, right? And we can think about the light that we had collected from that time, right? And this is a nice meditation that I like to do around this time is to like think back to the summer and being out in the sun and sort of the ways that we like received the light and collected the light and the way sort of photosynthesize the light and the way that we hold that in our bodies, in our hearts, and in our spirits, right? And we can think about the seed of light that we carry with us and how we can cultivate that ember in the dark in this dark time of year, right? And this time, pretty much across the board in the Northern Hemisphere is seen as the holiday season, right? And this is kind of non-denominational, it's holiday time, right? People come together, we eat, we talk, we sing, we share space, we tell stories, right? Humans are social creatures. We help support each other and regulate ourselves, right? And regulate each other. This is what's known in neuroscience as interpersonal neurobiology, right? The ways that we help to regulate each other through being in community and being in connection. This is a way of helping each other to cultivate the fire that we carry within us, right? And we can think about, everybody walking around with this like little spark, right? We're walking around in these dark times, it's cold, right? We're feeling isolated, we're feeling alone, and we come together with these little sparks that we are carrying. And as we come together, we help to sort of tend to these little sparks. We help them to build, right? We help them to get a little brighter and a little lighter, right? And together we help to cultivate this fire that helps to burn away the darkness and to lead us through this dark night. In ancient Rome, this is the time of Saturnalia, which is a festival dedicated to the Titan god Saturn, or Kronos in the Greek, right? Where social orders were inverted during this festival. People didn't go to work, no one went to school, courts weren't in, so justice wasn't administered, right? This is a time of leisure and feasting and celebration. And this is celebrating the rebirth of the unconquerable sun, right? This holiday was also a remembrance of the golden age that was provided over by Saturn. And Hesiod talks about it as mortals lived like gods, never knowing sorrow or toil. When they died, it was as if they were falling asleep. No one worked or grew unhappy. Spring never ended. It is even described as a period in which people aged backwards. When they died, they became daemons who roamed the earth. And when Zeus overcame the Titans, the golden age ended. And so, this is a remembering of the golden age, right? And this time, right, was seen as a symbolic return to the golden age. People didn't work, right? People were let out of prison sometimes. Servants were the masters, masters were the servants. There was total inversions of social order. We see this in things like Mardi Gras, right, which are kind of modern representations of Saturnalia, right? And statues of Saturn during the Saturnalian were unbound and people were allowed to celebrate. In some ways, we continue on this tradition, right, of looking back towards the golden age, right? Oh yeah, Cosmic Cousin saying we got to get ourselves back to the garden. right? Um, and I think that uh, oh, and there's a Saturnalia contest. Okay, cool. Right. And I think that, in some ways we carry on this tradition, right, of looking back towards the golden age, right? The holidays tend to be a really nostalgic time, especially in like pop culture and media, right? But I think that this is also met with the disappointment of Saturnian realities. Right. But we continue to cultivate hope and community even in challenging and uncertain times, right? And this is a way that we spend time to really think about like what could the golden age really look like, right? And for some people, this is like watching A Wonderful Life with their family, right? For other people, this might be like, a golden age might look like more sort of uh small community orientation, right, and less sort of like corporate overlords. I don't know, this is an opportunity to cultivate your own vision of the golden age. To think about this also in the Euro tradition, Yule, right, and the longest night. In ancient Europe during this time, people would light fires and massive Yule logs that would burn for days to banish the darkness and help the sun to come back after the longest night. This is a time of rebirth and regeneration that is born in the dark night. Right? People decorated their homes with evergreen branches, holly, mistletoe, symbols of life and greenery. And yeah, this is a time of rebirth and return to life after the descent into darkness. Right. This is also the time when the Oak King and the Holly King do battle. Right. Now the fledgling Oak King begins to overtake the Holly King, who has come to supremacy in the dark and in the cold of winter. And slowly but surely, the Oak King, who reigns over summer, begins to grow in power as the light increases, second by second, minute by minute, day by day. Right. So this is a time for all of us to consider what we want to leave behind in the dark, what we want to offer up to the night and to the Holly King, and what parts of ourselves we want to put energy towards, and what we want to cultivate and bring forth in the new year as we gain in light, right? So as we're moving into the dark, this is a shedding time, right? And as we begin to move into the light, we are, really deciding where to put that energy, where to cultivate that fire, where to sort of direct our own personal light. And so, again, the sun moving into Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign. And this entry into the cardinal earth sign kind of speaks to the wheel of life that we are strapped to, right? This sort of increase of light, decrease of light, increase of light. This is the cycle of the year and the cycle of life. And this is Saturnian, right? These are the limits of life. And these are the Saturn represents the limits of life and the limits of our abilities, right? And just as the winter solstice represents the extreme limit of the relationship between light and dark here on Earth, right? Saturn reminds us that within these limitations, we also do have agency to make our choices, right? And this is a time of year when we have the ability to choose what we want to let go of and what we want to cultivate. Capricorn is about climbing mountains and achieving goals. The seeds of these mountains and goals are born in this darkness. They provide a map for us to know where to go, right? What mountain to climb. Capricorn is a cardinal sign. It is the beginning of a journey, and the journey of 10,000 miles begins with a single step. And we just need to know where to orient ourselves, where to turn in order to take that first step. You need to know what is the right mountain to climb. Right? We do this by resting in the dark and by tuning into cultivating that inner light that helps us to know which way to go, right? By cultivating that inner spark helps us to illuminate the way so that we don't find ourselves by springtime having expended a bunch of energy to climb the wrong mountain, right? We don't want to do that, right? We want to really spend this time not like running around because we feel like we're not enough. We want to spend this time cultivating that inner spark and that inner light that helps us to align to our higher purpose, to our higher self, to our orientation in life so that we can follow that path step by step. And Saturn And I think Capricorn, in some ways, provides the structure to help us do the difficult things that we don't particularly want to do, right? So as we orient to this inner light that helps us to know this is the right thing, I think that Saturn also helps us to move forward step by step, so that we can achieve our goals and follow our paths. And with that, my friends, that is your week in space. Thank you so much for tuning in and riding with me through another exciting astrological report. Again, I'm John Emerson Bell, your astrologer extraordinaire, here every Monday, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, making that 10 a.m. Pacific Time, making that, what is it, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm available for tarot and astrology readings. You can find me on my website, campwizardcamp.com. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Wes Eddie. Yeah, you can find me on my or was I? You can find me on my website, campwizardcamp.com, or on Instagram at Blind Stallion Space Wizard. Just DM me, and we can set up a time to do a reading if you're interested in that sort of thing. I also do a weekly, sometimes astrological radio show, astrologically themed radio show called The Melee Report, which is all the astro weather you never thought you needed, set to all the music you never thought you would hear. It just dropped yesterday on Patreon, and I will put it out for all y'all out there as soon as I get off this live. So you can check it out. It's a great way to get your astrological weather in a much more musical way, more talk, more rock, less talk. And what else? Upcoming, I'm doing a year ahead deep dive into 2025 with Lindsay Turner, the brilliant Sam Reynolds, and Michael Bartlett. That's going to be a Zoom event going down on January the 4th, and we'll be taking you through all the major transits and all the stuff you need to know to get you prepared for 2025. Which again, that this year is going to be off the chain, so you might want to tune into this. You'll be provided with a recording, so you can check back later and be like, "Damn, they were right about that. I didn't even believe them, but they were right." I'll put a link to that in the show notes, and I'll put something about it in my stories. There's also a link in my bio on Instagram. And then also, this just in, very exciting news. Me and my partner Marlena Seven Bremner, the brilliant and talented alchemist and artist, are going to be teaching our class, The Seven Classical Planets Through Myth, Magic, and Alchemy. That's going to be running from March the 1st through April the 19th. It is an 8-week class, going 1 week for each planet, and then an integration class. And we look at the planets through an astrological lens, through a mythological lens, through an archetypal lens, through a psychological lens, through an alchemical lens. It's awesome. It's a great time. I encourage you to sign up. We're going to have a early bird discount until I believe mid-January. You can check on the website. I'll put a link in the show notes again, and I'll put something in my stories and a link in my bio if you're interested in finding more information or signing up. Oh yeah, and Michelle DeMarco says it's 8 weeks of complete awesomeness. Hell yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that you took it. I'm so glad that you liked it. It's a blast and something that I really enjoy getting to do. And so if you're interested in deepening your astrological or archetypal knowledge, check us out. It's going to be a great time. All right, that is all the astro weather that is fit to print, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next week, same wizard time, same wizard channel. And until then, good people, may the force be with you. Bye now.